Nam. Welcome to Kundalini Now, conversations with the Yogis. My name is Wa, and I'm here with my mother, Gurmukh Khalsa, and I'm so excited to start this series, and I'm so honored to have her as my first guest. Hi, Mama.
Hi, Walla.
I am here in Portland, Oregon, and my mom is in Taos, New Mexico. And we are going to be talking about spirit in action and what that means. And Yogi Bhajan left us with some very wise words. And he said that if you cannot be a national leader, be a local leader, be a community leader, be a street leader. Somehow, as a human being, be a leader of righteousness, be a lighthouse. And I guess my first question for you, Mama, is, you travel the world. You kind of are constantly seeing the flux and the state of which this planet is in. And a lot of us live in kind of smaller worlds and smaller orbits where we kind of just interact with our immediate community and don't really see, besides the news, what's happening on a global level. And I know for me, I turn the radio on and it sounds like crisis is just facing our planet and humanity right now. And it can be scary, it can be intimidating, it can make me feel really small, like what can I do, who am I? How do you keep your spirit in action as you travel and teach, and how do you respond to what can seem and feel like a crisis now on the planet?
Well, it's a good question. First of all, having lived on this planet for 75 years, I wouldn't exactly call it more of a crisis than, say, when I was born at World War II time, or the Korean War, or the war against Vietnam. I feel that it is a crisis, but in many ways it's always been a crisis. So how does one live this life doing something worthwhile so that when you leave this earth at whatever time is your destiny to leave, you leaving a gift of maybe more kindness, more honesty, more giving, more of a charitable heart. That's the biggest question now, I feel, for all of us. Why are we alive? What are we supposed to be doing?
And if somebody is really feeling, that longing, that something's missing in their life, and they just don't know where to begin. They don't know, do they just start with getting on their mat and starting to meditate and those answers will come? Do they get their hands dirty? Do they try different things? I mean, where does one begin if they feel like something's missing in
I feel all those things are important. For self-love, you can only give as much as you have. Wouldn't you agree?
their life? Yeah.
Okay. So if you have an abundance of self-love, then just it's going to be your nature to want to give, because you're going to figure out how you became happy. And for me, the biggest way I became happy, I mean, really happy, that joy inside, is when I investigated all aspects of life and came to a conclusion that my greatest happiness for me is how much I give. And that kind of brought me into this world, because I lived so long, basically, in many ways for myself, and I wasn't happy. But now there's a really thing to investigate. You can't give when you don't love yourself, because you're going to try to fill this empty hole by becoming, let's say, a social worker. And that hole will never be filled. It has to be filled first, the self-love, and then get off your mat in that early morning after meditation and yoga and say, what can I do now to go out into the world and help people?
And don't you feel though, like one of the dichotomies that I find in the yoga community is that there's so much emphasis on self-work, self-love, self-work, that people can almost get stuck there and self-indulge, that everything then becomes about them, healing their wounds. And Yogi Bhajan always taught us also that, you know, when you're sad, find someone sadder than you and serve them. When you're hungry, find someone hungrier than you and serve them. That can be metaphorically or literally. But how do we find that balance of, as we're healing self, we're also serving? Because if I waited, or you waited until we were perfect and happy and joyful to teach, there would be no yoga teachers in the world, because we're human, and it's kind of these things that ride together side by side. It's the same track, the same track with two sides of the track, one being towards self-growth, one being towards service, and they both carry us in the same direction.
He basically, the three teachings were so simple that stuck to me for a long, long time. He said to rise in the early morning and to do your practice, whatever it is, whether you're of any faith or not faith, whether you're a yogi, whether you're a meditator, you're all of the above, to do your work before the sun comes up, and then roll your mat up, and then work hard and share. So it can go hand in hand. You can work on yourself in the body, mind, and spirit, but then you spend most of your day really seeing what you could do to help other people. Now, it takes a good look at your life. Are you working at something that actually will contribute to the earth, to leave it a better place, whether it's in soil, whether it's agriculture, whether it's helping people, whether you're a doctor, whatever it is, or are you taking away from the earth and not giving back? That's a good question to start with, I feel.
Yeah, I think that so much of these teachings, whether you're new to them or you've been practicing a long time, they keep driving you back to really, the word I'm looking for is responsibility, of looking at your life and taking responsibility for it. Because so many times people want dramatic change, they want shift, they know that something isn't right, but they're not really willing to take the responsibility to make drastic or small changes that will send them in the right direction. Because change can be scary, and I'm sure that you've experienced this in counseling people and working with people, that, you know, they can acknowledge that something is off balance. They can acknowledge that maybe they spend too much time working and not enough time with self-care, or too much time with self-care and not enough time with service. But then when they really have to acknowledge the shift and make it, they're not willing to. How do you create space or encourage people to make that uncomfortable change, when they recognize what it is that has to change in order for them to feel that sense of purpose?
I think small steps are good. I think start now, part of the sutra, start now and the pressure will be off. There's a way through every block. I think if they get up in the morning and review after their meditations, their sadhana, just some simple things, how they're going to spend just that day, what they're going to eat, how they're going to resolve maybe arguments or disruptions with other people. Just start on a daily basis instead of thinking within a year or 10 years, I'm going to blah, 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 blah. Start now and the pressure will be off and the answers will come more easily than thinking you have to have far-range thoughts, but you're still here right now. And how are you going to treat today as the best day of your life, as the most giving day of your life, the most loving day? Are you going to pick up the phone and call somebody and say, I was thinking about you, sending my love? Are you going to make some cookies and take them to the office? Are you going to spend more time with your children or take a walk outdoors where you can breathe the fresh air and look at the flowers and remember God. If every moment is sacred, I'm telling you, it works so much better than waiting till someday when I can, because that day may not come and you may be here right now.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like one of my favorite things from that I learned about Buddhist monks is the vow that they take that they'll continue to incarnate until all souls have been liberated. And you know, if that can be the motto for our life, that we're not here to just self-serve to become enlightened so that our soul can reach that state of freedom, but we're really here to help liberate each other and walk each other home, then we're not waiting for some teacher to come along to serve our community, but rather we recognize the teacher in each other, and we can just serve each other in every little way possible and not wait for perfection or enlightenment or feeling that we have all the knowledge in the world before we can share. We can share the smallest things by just sharing our experiences, and you never know where that's going to take someone else.
I found two expressions. One was in Norway when I was traveling up in the far north of Norway teaching, and I love this one. I'm going to try to find it. Okay, this one is by Aldous Huxley, who many of us know. It's a little embarrassing that after 45 years of research and study, the best advice I can give people is to be a little kinder to each other. The other one I found was on a wall in a funny little place in Norway. Be so happy that when others look at you, they become happy too. Just simple things. The life can get very, very simple if your base is I'm going to be kind. And that means kind to yourself too. I'm going to smile even through my tears because I know smiling is contagious. Little things. You don't have to belong to the United Nations or go to the Congo. I mean, you can if you want. That's fantastic. But what about your next door neighbor? What about anybody that you're going to run, the clerk at the store? Yeah. I can very easily now hug people. I couldn't hug people before. And people love to be hugged. It's little things like that. And then they start adding up, adding up, adding up until your whole day starts having meaning.
Yeah. I love that you said you couldn't hug people, because I always wanted to be one of those people that when they met someone new, they hugged them and they called people love and my dear, and just enduring terms rather than by their name. And when I was like in my late teens, early 20s, I thought, oh, you know, that just feels like not organic to me to approach people in that way. And I just practiced it. And over time, I've now become a person who can very easily hug people, who can very easily use words of endearment to acknowledge people. And it feels very genuine. And I think it makes people feel cozy around me and at ease around me, which is, you know, just such a gift to be able to bring that to a space to help everyone just feel comfortable, because we all know what it's like to walk into a space that is uncomfortable and how you know, cringing that can be. So that's another thing Yogi Bhajan talks so much about, was our presence and how our presence should speak louder than our words. And I was sharing just the other day in my class about how you love the word cozy so much, and you've taught me to really embrace that word and in its totality of like my home feeling cozy, my body feeling cozy, the people around me feeling cozy, and how when we feel cozy in our own home, which is our body temple, our presence allows other people to feel that. And so I like that you shared the hug bit, because I think, you know, it's like those little things that you can admire in other people that you think like, oh, I could never be that way, I could never do that. But really you can, once you just start kind of exercising that openness and that willingness to be of service. Because really hugs are in service. You're not there to like get a hug yourself, you're there to give a hug. And so that's cool.
You know, Yogi Bhajan, he's the one that used that word cozy. I'd never even used that before.
I
I didn't
know.
even know about it. But I remember I had a beautiful friend, Nerbo, many, many years ago, and she just would hug everyone, like 45 years ago. She would just go hugging people. She was from Florida, and I used to think, golly sakes, I wish I could hug like she hugs there, because I didn't grow up hugging. You only hugged a light hug your mother and father. You never would think of hugging just anybody, a friend you didn't hug, even your relatives you didn't hug. People did not hug when I grew up in the Midwest. And I used to wish, God, I wish I could hug. How can I hug? And now I just love to hug. So sometimes you see somebody that you admire them for something good they're doing, and just say, golly sakes, I wish I could do that. And lo and behold, you'll just start doing it. And I've also learned to be more honest. And I wanted to say that Yogi Bhajan would always say, poke, provoke, confront. Like if you see something is happening with somebody, you know that you need to talk to them. But if you can't uplift them, don't say any of it, because you're just talking regular talk. Like let's just say somebody is just talking kind of mean to people, and they're getting more and more miserable. You can address it, you could provoke and confront them with it, and perhaps they'll start talking or crying. But until you have that compassionate heart, you can't just go around criticizing people. It doesn't work, it doesn't help anybody. But I wanted to ask you a question now.
Yeah.
How did you come to be who you are? You're 33, right? Or 34? What are you?
34.
Okay. And I had you a long time ago. Um, how did you get to want to do this in your life? You could just be off living for yourself.
uh, you and Yogi Bhajan and our community. I don't know. I think that one thing that I've found in my life is I've never been much of a goal seeker, an achiever, go to college, get my degrees. I never really walked a straight line. I kind of just wandered down a path, and it seemed like things presented themselves. And I remember when I was 18 and I was like, I don't want to be a yoga teacher, and I don't want to run a yoga studio. And I wanted to kind of push as um, far from what you and Poppy did, and kind of just stretch my own wings and see where that led me. And because I wasn't a planner and I wasn't an achiever and a goal setter, the path led me back to you and led me back to Golden Bridge. And everything just kind of fell into place around me. And whether you want to consider that the grace of God, the willingness to just follow spirit, I just kind of landed where I am today. And I still don't know where it's taking me. And I'm still kind of just putting one foot in front of the other and trusting that whatever presents itself is in support of that which I'm meant to walk towards. And I have so much proof in support for this, because I've always been able to live the life that I wanted to live while I taught and while I shared what I do. And now, my husband graciously goes to a job, 10 hours a day to help sustain our life while I teach. And so I really trust that that is also, the universe's way of saying, just keep putting one foot in front of the other, because everything around me is kind of taken care of, and I'm able to do what I do without having to, go work a night job or go work a second job. I can really focus on my teaching. So I don't know. I think I just wake up and I meditate in the morning, and I see where the day's going to take me, and I don't have a bazillion plans of how it's going to unfold, but it keeps unfolding. And so here I am doing what I do, thanks to you.
But do you think that it is to serve people? Because you could just go off and do a thing that has nothing to do with the human
Yeah,
race.
I mean, absolutely. I think that, you know, I love helping people, and I've always been that way, even when even when I didn't think that I wanted to be a yoga teacher. I always had, you know, dreams of having an orphanage and supporting youth, or having an animal sanctuary and, you know, adopting all the animals. Like, I've always been in longing to serve and to help people. And I think partially that's my nature, but, you know, nature versus nurture. You and Yogi Bhajan and our whole community taught me from a very young age that your soul has a purpose on this earth, and you need to keep following that path, to keep finding that purpose, because you didn't come back to just hang out. You came back to do work and to help. And that took a while for me to figure out, like, does that mean I have to, you know, practice a religious lifestyle to do it? Does that mean I have to teach Kundalini Yoga to do it? And, you know, what I'm discovering is it can be in so many different forms. It can be in so many different ways that I'm in service, cooking meals and inviting people over, and feeding them with love is service. Having, as you've taught me, having parties is service. Like, inviting people to your home is service. Creating women's circles is service. Teaching at youth centers is service. Walking dogs at the Humane Society is service. There's so many ways that that can be expressed. But as long as I keep exercising that, I get it 10 times in return, right? I get that feeling of fulfillment, that it becomes its own driving force. It's not a forced effort. It's something that I look forward to doing every day. So that's one thing that I would say to people who are looking for ways to serve. They may start off at having to be, you know, like a little bit of an effort. Like, okay, you know, I don't necessarily want to go do this on my Saturday, but I know that I need to. But once you get that first, you know, couple experiences of how high and fulfilled and heart open you feel after, it becomes something you look forward to, and it just becomes a natural part of your life.
What do you think, that you would say to parents or to those who want to have children? Um, Now, as you said, this most complex world and confusing world to bring children into, how can parents help them to build the character, especially as they're going to need for the next 50, 60, 70, 80 years in this changing world? What are the values? What would you say, perhaps, that you had in your life or wish that you had had? How can we keep improving parenting?
Yeah, I think that we should save that for our second episode, because I think that could be a
Yeah,
whole
I think
conversation.
that's a whole big subject.
So let's end here with just that coziness and that act of service, and helping. We hope that we can help inspire everyone out there to just call their spirits into action, because this world needs us, and we each are part of the solution, and we can't wait for somebody else to fix what's happening on this planet. We all have to be part of that solution. And people can tune back in for our next episode, which can be about parenting and yogic conscious. Maybe we'll dive into yogic pregnancy and parenting. Anything?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. And then I think we also have to have another time with how to make your home so cozy and so beautiful for everyone coming through the door, including yourself, to enjoy. Because all of this is so important. Everything around you has to be to remember that the Creator is the doer. The Creator gave you life. The Creator wants you to remember the connection, because once that connection is lost, depression just comes. So much comes, and it doesn't have to be that way. And I think Kundalini Yoga can really help people to remember the connection.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it was so fun chatting and doing this over the internet in our faraway states. It's amazing what technology can do for us now. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Kundalini Now. We hope that you'll join our future episodes, and we will see you soon. Sat Nam.
Vietnam, thank